of dollars in the process.
Okay. Let me bring Anson back in here. This issue going on with Elon Musk and Tesla is kind of fascinating. It's not in the same kind of wheelhouse, except that oddly, all the people that used to love Elon Musk, including many on the woke left, have now turned on him with a visceral hatred. And you're seeing Tesla cars being torched all over America and so on, and the share price diving or whatever. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's funny. It's the same people that literally 2 years ago were saying, "Oh, the conservatives are overreacting by boycotting Bud Light," are now burning Teslas. So, talk about the hypocrisy that we were talking about earlier. It's pretty comical. Elon's a tough one to discuss because the guy is the CEO of 6 different companies, and what might be good for some of his businesses by getting involved in politics are not good for other businesses. Obviously, in the case of Tesla, it really hasn't been good. If you take a look at the share price, and then you take a look at some of the resale value of Tesla since he's gotten involved with the Trump administration, for Tesla, it really hasn't been good. And I think if Musk was just the CEO of Tesla, I think a lot of people would be saying that, man, like this is not good for the business, and maybe we got to figure out some way that he takes a step back because he's been too involved with Tesla. And again, if I was the Tesla shareholder, not necessarily happy. The thing is with Elon, though, is that he has a lot of other businesses. For Twitter, this has been really good that he's gotten involved more on the political side. He opened up free speech. He had this whole debate about his whole platform should be open to everybody and all voices. Twitter usage and revenues is back to, I think almost record highs right now, and that business is doing incredibly well. And then his other business, SpaceX being involved with the government and being able to rescue astronauts this past week from Boeing, I think it's been a huge boon to SpaceX. So it's really hard to tell with Elon Musk. Elon Musk also just being the controlling shareholder and the majority owner of all these businesses.
There is a humongous
it's a little bit different. He plays a little bit of a different ball game than others. And again, I can't think of another person that's the CEO in this entire world of 4, 5, 6, 7 different multi-billion-dollar companies. So it's just a little bit of a different situation. But in general, I don't like it when individuals who are the heads of companies are taking politicized positions, because I think that we see that what ends up happening, the share price of the company declines, the sales decline, customers decline, and ultimately that's the least sustainable thing that a business can do, because then they have to fire employees, they have to close factories, suppliers shut down. So it's best for generally for companies to stay out of politics or stay in their political lane. I have no idea. I have no problem with if you're Elon Musk and you're running a car company, opining on car emissions policies, opining on union-related issues related to car factories. Those things are all in your lane. Some of the other issues that a CEO like Elon would be getting involved with, if you were just the CEO of Tesla, I would have issues with. You think about Ben. He opened this call by talking about he just wants everyone to have fair and equal opportunities. I think that, for most people, everybody wants people to have fair and equal opportunities, but we get back to then, like, what does that mean? And that's the problem when companies get involved. Whether it's on the Israeli-Palestinian side, is it fair that a bunch of innocent Israelis were captured and then murdered on October 7th? Is that fair and equal? I don't think so. Is it fair and equal that you have we had to put in voter integrity laws because it seems like there were people showing up without IDs? I don't know if that's fair or equal. We had unlimited immigration in this country over the past couple of years. Was that fair and equal to people that all of a sudden were displaced when migrant or illegal immigrants were placed in their high schools or taking up hotel rooms in the areas? Is that fair and equal? I think these are debates that we as kind of co-equal citizens, we all tend to have, but we should have that sort of in the democracy that we live in. And for the most part, it shouldn't be companies, and it shouldn't be companies the ones that are taking positions on all of these issues, because it leads to declining share prices. As customers, they sort of fragment because they don't like necessarily politics coming with their products.
Right. I mean, Ben, there's a big story involving Ben and Jerry's. Your chief executive, David Stever, was removed by the parent company Unilever earlier this month in a growing row over political activism. It comes a month after Ben and Jerry's accused Unilever of demanding that it stops publicly criticizing US President Donald Trump. The filing said Unilever has repeatedly threatened Ben and Jerry's personnel, including CEO David Stever, should they fail to comply with Unilever's efforts to silence the social mission. Pretty controversial scenario there between you and the parent company. What can you tell us about that?
Well, when the company was sold to Unilever, Ben & Jerry's used to be an independent, publicly held company. When it was sold to Unilever, which was
I don't think he was told what he was coming on this show for.
There was a unique governance structure that was set up whereby there was a legally empowered independent board of directors that had authority over 2 of the 3 missions of Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's has a social mission, it has a product mission, and it has an economic mission. And the independent board of directors got the legal authority to determine the social mission of the company. So what's happened now is that recently the company wanted to put up a post in favor of dismantling white supremacy. They wanted to put up a post agreeing with free speech and against the arrest of this guy at Columbia. So that was not Unilever's authority. That was not an area that Unilever legally had authority for, and so the board sued them, and now they are threatening to fire the CEO of the company, Dave Stever, a guy who started as a tour guide 35 or 40 years ago and has risen up the ranks to be an incredible CEO of the company.
But has it given you any pause for thought that this political activism stance that Ben & Jerry's takes, particularly if you have a parent company that doesn't agree with it, becomes a sort of act of self-harm?
It's definitely a problem when you have a parent company that doesn't agree with it. Ben & Jerry's has been owned by Unilever since the year 2000, and pretty much up until 2 or 3 years ago, things were going pretty well. But there's been a change in management at Unilever, and there's a lot of conflict right now.
In 2018, Ben & Jerry's said it was taking a stand against Trump by rebranding one of its flavors under the name Pecan Resist. Can we look forward to more resisting ice cream varieties now? Second time round?
Fucking messy, bro. I swear to God.
You never know.
It's just fucking messy.
Would you be happy with Ben & Jerry's actually coming out with a variety of ice cream which directly attacked Trump, given the emphatic nature of his win?
I think that Ben & Jerry's should be taking stands on issues. I'm not looking to attack particular people myself.
I mean, Trump, for example, Ben & Jerry's dropped a video announcing that it would never stop fighting for our democracy. This is when Trump returned to the White House.
What's wrong with that?
Unilever does a lot of business with Russia, with China. Have you made your feelings clear to them that you resent them doing business with democracy-loathing countries like Russia and China? Or does it only apply to America's president?
Personally, I have no problem with doing business with Russia, China.
Really?
Yeah.
So why do you have a problem with Trump and democracy? Why are you releasing through
Say
Ben
it.
and
It's your
Jerry's
country.
videos?
You're an American citizen. You
So
have
you'll
every
never
fucking
stop
right to
fighting
feel
for
that way.
I think there
democracy.
was a bunch of undemocratic actions that
So you do
Trump
like-
was taking in this country.
Well, hang on. So just to be clear, you have a problem with actions that may damage democracy in the United States. But you have absolutely
Yeah.
no problem doing business with Russia and China.
I don't believe that every country in the world needs to be a democracy. And actually, I don't really believe that the U.S. is a democracy in practice.
Right, but why do you care
it's
so?
supposed to be one person, one vote, but it's $1, one vote.
Right.
I mean, billionaires and corporations control our legislation through lobbying. They control who gets elected through political donations.
Would
The
you be
people in
happy? Would you be
Congress
happy doing
represent
business?
the money.
Oh,
They
would you
don't
be happy
represent
doing
the people.
business with North Korea?
I believe that we need to get along with nations around the world. I don't believe that every nation has to have the same form of government. No, I don't believe that it makes sense for anybody to to ostracize other nations and have wars with them, or
Would you have done business with
system?
Would you have done business with the Nazis out of interest?
No,
Why?
Stupid questions.
they're an exception.
Why?
Well,
I-
because they were engaging in genocide.
Right. So you have no
Piers, what the
problem
fuck?
with anything that, say, the Chinese are doing to the Uyghur Muslims?
You know, I have problems with things that most countries are doing. I have problems with things that the U.S. is doing. That's okay.
Just
It
say
doesn't
it.
mean
Just
that
say
we
it.
have
Just
to
say that you
consider
just
them
you
to
don't
be
fuck like you don't fuck with that shit,
enemies.
and you just want
You know,
you standing on this and just say that.
Capital in Washington D.C. was built by slaves. Is that worse than what China is doing with the Uyghurs? I don't know.
The who? The who?
Okay. We'll leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed. Appreciate the debate.
All right.
Thanks, Pierce.
Good seeing you all.
Disney's remake of Snow White has become one of the most preemptively hated movies in the history of Hollywood. It's finding out this week after a disaster-strewn 2-year build-up. The downfall began in 2023 when star Rachel Zegler, heralded as the boundary-breaking first-ever Latina Snow White, condemned the beloved fairy tale as creepy, predatory, and sexist. It then emerged that Disney had axed the 7 dwarves, apparently to avoid typecasting and defending actual dwarves. This all came as a nasty shock for dwarf actors who already compete for a very limited number of lucrative roles.
Characteristics, separate characteristics. They weren't these cave-dwelling monsters that people speak of. They all had 7 different characteristics for 7 different actors that from my community, and I don't feel it's right that got taken
I
away
completely
from us.
and utterly agree with you. And the irony is that they profess, these progressives, to want to do this to protect you. Well, I'm delighted to say that Dylan will be rejoining us shortly to give an update, but I'm afraid it's not a happy ever after scenario. The 7 dwarves were first replaced by 7 diverse magical creatures, whatever that means. And as fury mounted, Disney did decide to bring the dwarves back. So the dwarf actors, human actors, they used cheap CGI dwarves that look like garden gnomes. With a budget of $270 million and one of the most popular stories in history, how did it all go so badly wrong? We're joined to explain all this, uncensored contributor Esther Krakow, Gary Buchler, aka Nerdrotic, the critical drinker Will Jordan, and author of The Case for Cancel Culture, Ernest Ernst. Welcome to all of you. All right, let me start with you, Nerdrotic, on this. Where did it all go so catastrophically wrong? Was it Rachel Zegler, appointing one of the wokest actresses in history?
Here we
Was
go.
that the catalyst for all this? Or was it virtue signaling gone mad? What do you put your finger on?
I think it was. I mean, we can start out with the creative bankruptcy of remaking another animated classic instead of making something new. But yes, it's all Rachel Zegler and her behavior. And if it was just one comment, it probably would have been forgotten by now. But it was comment after comment, and it was pissing off everybody, pissing off old Disney fans, pissing off new Disney fans, pissing off Trump supporters, pissing
Who's
off
the new Disney
all of
fans?
America.
7-year-olds?
It became such a disaster that they had to shut her up, which was the smartest move they made. But the onus is all on her and Disney's reaction to it. And quite frankly, if she has said nothing, her movie, probably still forgettable, would have done a lot better.
Critical drinker, I mean, it's even down to the fact that Rachel Zegler and is it Zegler or Ziegler, by the way?
I think it's Zegler.
Zegler, I think is how you pronounce it.
It's Zegler, right? Let's just clarify that. Between the battle between her and Gal Gadot, right, is that they take diametrically different views on things like the Israel-Hamas war. Zegler publicly supporting Palestine. Gal Gadot served in the IDF and wrote, "I stand with Israel, you should too, the world can't stand on the fence," so on. So here are the 2 stars of the movie, even diametrically opposed in a very polarizing manner over a big war that's raging.
Sure, it feels like every aspect of this movie just seems to breed controversy, and yet that's just another aspect of it. By all accounts, they do not get on particularly well. I think you could tell that from their body language when they were presenting an Oscar together. They just could not have disliked each other more. So, yeah, it's just another nail in the coffin of this movie, unfortunately.
Ernest, you've seen it. So what do you think? Don't tell me. You loved it.
I loved it. It was incredible.
Of course.
I think that Rachel, well, you can say of course, but, you know, you haven't
It's
seen it, so you
subjective,
might agree.
Pierce. Come
I've
on,
read
it's
some of the previews
subjective.
of people who have, and
Vocally,
they've been killing it.
she's vocally talented. She's crushing it. A lot of people saw first previews, and movie critics are already saying great things about her performance. She's whimsical, she's funny, she's lighthearted, and it's a great film. And I also think Gal Gadot plays the evil witch very, very well. And
Well,
so I think they both were perfectly cast for the film, and I think that it's going to be a great film that's going to get over $100 million in the global box office.
Which is great, 'cause they only
you know,
spent
haters
double-
are going to
double
hate.
of
but
that.
I
Well,
really think
hang
she's
on,
doing
they
a good
spent
job.
nearly 300 million, so that would be a catastrophic failure. You realise that, Ernest?
Actually, 350.
I mean, look,
350,
I
yeah.
think that.
So,
like I
Ernest, you
said,
think it
the
would be a
movies are very
success if it
different.
grossed 100 million, having cost 350 million to make?
That would
Is that your
definitely
position?
be,
I'm talking about
successful.
opening weekend. We saw this with the Lion King remake. Everybody was acting like it was gonna flop, but I think it's gonna be a slow burner. I think it's gonna do the same thing that the Lion King did. Not equally, but I do think there's gonna be a build-up, and I think that the performances speak for themselves.
Esther?
In as much as Rachel Zegler tap dances on my last good nerve, she is a talented singer. However, that was not what this film was about. There are many talented singers in Hollywood. Snow White shouldn't have been the shade of Snow Latte, first of all. I think the casting was probably the biggest thing, barring the fact that even if she'd kept her mouth shut, which she should have, because there was a lot of money riding on this, the casting was off. I love Gal Gadot, but she's not a very emotive actress. And I don't think there are limits to how far I can stretch my imagination to believe that someone who looks like Gal
But isn't
Gadot
the problem
would
that
be
every
jealous of the appearance of someone like Rachel Zegler.
But isn't
I'm
the
sorry.
problem that every
So
time
wait,
you say
so
it's
wait,
all about
what should they have
the problem
fucking
is
hired somebody who was
literally
fucking
every time
ugly
she
and then
opened
like
her woke
who
mouth,
says that?
all
Who
hell
says
broke
somebody's
loose.
ugly?
She
Like,
called
who-
the prince basically a stalker. She then hammered Israel. She then told Trump supporters she didn't need their business. Imagine being a Disney executive and you hear the star of your new Snow White remake alienating more than half the country. The Republicans
The
just won a
smartest thing
big
they
win,
did-
right? Alienated them
smartest thing they
all
did
in
was
one
bury
fell
her.
swoop.
Yeah, the smartest thing
They
they
didn't
did,
like the
as
movie
Gary
before
said,
that.
was to try and
Like,
bury
stop-
her
like,
and just
Hang on,
keep
hang
her
on,
from
Ernest.
going to
Socially
anyone.
dishonest.
Hang on, critical drinkers talking.
Yeah, the smartest thing, as Gary said, that Disney could have done was to bury her and just keep her from talking to anyone. Do not give her a hot mic and do not let her spout her stupid, uninformed opinions. She's a kid. She's a dumb, uninformed kid who's never done a day's work in her entire life. And of course, she has an opinion on
woman.
everything. That doesn't mean we
It's
have
not
to
about
hear
being a
it.
woman. She couldn't point to Israel on a map. The fact that someone like Gal Gadot, who's actually had a career, had to sit next to this spouting munchkin, or someone who actually
I'm fucking confused now. What is her fucking stance? Like, what was that about? Like, what is this beef? Is this jealousy?
has a career, who I'm pretty sure the hardest role in her life was pretending to be jealous of the looks of Rachel Zegler. And this is not to take away from the fact that she is a talented
Who has the Golden
singer.
Globe, though?
Hold on, Rachel Zegler
By
is
the way,
very
she's
talented.
not even white, is she? I mean, isn't that the other
I'm
problem
not even
here?
going to get into that.
Wait. Time out. I got a question. Oh wait, nobody's in here. Nobody's in the chat. It doesn't fucking matter what I ask. Anyways, I'm asking anyways. So wait, what race is Snow White? Snow White's white, right? Correct. Why do I have double? Okay, shut the fuck up. Snow White is white, obviously, right? But is Snow White Cuban? You know, is it white? You know, from El Salvador? Like, where do we know what is her background? Because what I'm getting from this panel is they're about to be like Snow White's white, but if I look at the person who played Snow White, she is white presenting. So now I'm trying to figure out what the fuck do people want? Like, what do you want? What is like, what is it? Let me just listen to
We know she's Snow Latte.
The
but
original description of
she's a
Snow
good
White's
singer.
skin in the book is as white as snow.
Yeah,
Lips as red as blood, hair as black as ebony. Couldn't be clearer.
they missed it.
Listen, I'm gonna say this as somebody as a kid who worships these old Disney movies. For me, I didn't give a fuck as a child, as a kid. I didn't care that Snow White was green, blue, black, brown. I didn't give a fuck about her hair or her skin being white. It doesn't fucking matter. What mattered to me was the actual fucking story. The story is what actual got me to like the fucking movie. Like this hyper focus on fucking race, the hypocrisy, because like I don't know what this woman, can't pronounce her name either, is white presenting. So I don't necessarily understand where this fucking fake outrage is coming from. It's fucking weird to me. This is weird. This is
That
really
shit
weird.
bothered me.
Nadrotic, should we care that she wasn't as white as snow?
A fairy tale.
Well, people have eyes.
Well,
and you
hang on,
can
that's
see
for,
when-
that's for Nadrotic.
No, I'm dead. Like, just like I'm gonna be dead ass. Like, no, we don't care because this is the we're not the fucking audience. People in their in like middle 30s, late 30s, making fucking stupid ass comments about a child's movie. Like, let's be fucking for real. Like, let's be honest with yourselves. Are we seriously looking at Snow White and thinking to ourselves, well, she doesn't look white because she was white when I was a child? Bitch, you're like fucking 30 something now. This
Oh,
shit was
that's
geared
right.
towards
Sorry.
little kids.
Apologies, Piers. I think it does matter because it is, if you want to remake a Disney, I mean, there are tens of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 remakes of Snow White or adaptions of the story. But if you're remaking the Disney classic that started the company,
Yeah.
I would think you wanted to make it as close as possible to the original.
This is fucking crazy. These are grown ass people, probably in their mid to late 30s, debating. I know Piers is like 50 something, debating about whether or not Snow White was white enough or not. Like, the actor was at least white presenting. The woman in the next to Piers called her Snow Latte. I mean, like, as kind of funny as that is, it's fucked up.
Including
This
the
can't be
dwarves
real life.
and including the main
This can't
character
be
Snow
real life.
White.
Well, we're going to come.
but
We're
they-
going to come to the dwarf part, which is just beyond parody, to be honest with you. But
This
Ernest,
can't be real
the
life.
British
This
Board of
this
Health
is not real
Association
life. This is
trigger
fake.
warnings on here
This
to
is
say
fake.
a woman is deliberately poisoned and a girl is surrounded by ominous trees. Can I ask you? I've never understood who these trigger warnings are aimed at. Who could be that pathetically spineless and lily-livered and weak and snowflakey that they need to be warned that in a animated movie they're going to have, well, it's not fully animated, it has animated in it.
Why are they bitching so much?
That
Why are
in
they
this,
bitching?
You might get things which might be a little unsettling. Are you the guy that they're doing this for?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I don't live in Britain, but I do think it's interesting that there's a lot of critique around censorship. You all are supposed to be the bastions of free speech and expressions,
Yeah.
and you all are turning
In
over
the United
snowflakes
Kingdom.
because Rachel Ziegler said a
Shit, I
couple
know
of different
anymore,
things
buddy.
that don't ruffle your feathers politically. I think you all are the council culture crew. Maybe you all should be, co-authors of my book, since you all seem to agree about
Oh, I've got
how
no problem with
problematic
listen, just
and
to be
how
clear,
issue and hominous.
I have no
right.
problem with Rachel Zegler
If
spouting
she was a
off.
Trumper, you would agree.
Listen, I've got no problem
You would
with her
agree. If she was a
spouting.
Trumper,
I-
you wouldn't be
I-
having this conversation.
I respect her right to spout any nonsense she likes. Doesn't mean to say that we can't criticize her for it.
You're not criticizing her fucking acting. You're criticizing the color of her fucking skin, Piers. You're not. It's one thing to be like, it was a bad movie, or I didn't like the way she was singing, or it was poorly written, or I just didn't like her body language. No, you're saying she wasn't white enough. And the woman next to you called her Snow Latte. Like, let's be fucking
you
She
should
should
for
be
just
real.
shut her
silenced.
up.
There's
That's what you
$350
said.
No, I said,
million
I said
on
if
the
you're
line.
Disney,
Right, you said she should be silent.
if you're
What does
Disney,
that mean?
if you're
fucking
Disney,
crazy. It is
if you want her to
2025.
shut up and stop trashing
mean,
the movie.
She shouldn't
Can
have
we
taken the
just-
role
can we
if she
look
was
at this
going to
from a business
jeopardize
perspective?
$350 million.
Hang on,
That's the point.
critical drinker.
Yeah, can we look at this from a business perspective, right? Ultimately, Rachel Zegler is there as a representative of the Disney company. She's there to sell a product. In this case, the product is Snow White the movie. Now, the best way to sell a product is
Right.
to appeal to as many people as possible. And if you straight up say that 50% of your audience can get fucked, then you're
Yes,
not really appealing to
exactly.
a wide audience, are you?
It's just bad business. Let's bring in somebody
Right,
who
but,
has
that's
seen
the,
it.
but you're proving
Yeah.
my point, though.
Hang on.
There's a double
nobody's,
standard.
no,
There's no
nobody
double
said.
standard. Everyone should
if it
keep
was
their
a
mouth shut.
Trumper,
Everyone
who
should
was
keep their
going
mouth
it on the
shut.
opposite
Why?
end, would
Why?
it be
I thought we were about free
Hold on.
speech. Why should she
Everyone
keep her
their
mouth shut?
Snow White
Why?
should be
We're about
beautiful.
free
She should turn
speech.
up on set. Her skin should be white as snow, and she shouldn't. What's next? A bald Rapunzel. It's not hard to do this properly. A beautiful, a singing actress who keeps her mouth shut unless.
No. Say it. I won't. Oh my god. Yo, why are so many fucking people like this so fucking scared to say what the fuck they want to say? Why doesn't she say white woman? Why can't she say it? Say white woman. She wanted to see a white woman play Snow White. Just fucking say it. I'll have a little bit more fucking respect for you.
She's talking about the film and how great it is, so she doesn't tank $350 million. It's not hard.
It's not hard. Let's
You
bring
don't
in
believe
someone.
what you're saying.
Hang on. Let's bring in
It's
some.
true.
I want to bring in someone who's seen the film.
And any bald person can just fucking put on a fucking wig and play fucking Rapunzel. Like, these fucking people,
This is the
bro.
publisher of Film
Old
Threat,
as fuck.
Chris Gore. Chris, you've seen the film. Is it any good?
Yes, I have. Well, I'll have to give it up to Rachel Zegler. She has quite a singing voice. She's actually very good, and it's a solid 3 out of 10 on every level. Every other level, you can judge the film. It is a colossal disaster. From the over-bloated exposition to the dwarves. The dwarves are an ungodly nightmare. Why
did
they
hear
did
that.
it
I
in
did hear the
CG,
animation
I
of
do
it was
not know.
bad.
They put 7 little people out of work for this.
Ridiculous.
They are horribly animated. Horribly. I think might scare young children, but really, in
That's
the
kind
end,
of the point originally.
it's just, it was ill. It was a bad decision even to make this. And the sort of, it's not as woke as it could have been, but there is messaging underneath. They might as well have said the words equity, because they went right up to that line and didn't say it. But it's terrible and torturous. I can't imagine kids are gonna love it, but wow.
Yo, if cancel culture was a thing, if you can hear me and people in the cancel culture, if you can like just go into this show and find out who these individuals are and cancel the fuck out of them.
They really had an opportunity and failed.
I mean,
If there's anybody that
convincing
needs to be
how it does
cancelled,
the
it's the
box
fuck
office, 'cause
shits
they
on
spent
this
so
fucking
much money
show.
on this that the pre-publicity's been so awful that if it gets off
Yeah.
to a very poor start, you could see this becoming a real turkey.
Well, I don't know. I really
Look, for me, it's one thing if you're just going to criticize, like he started off calling it a 3 out of 10. That's fine, right? Not everybody's going to see it that way. Somebody's going to watch the movie, they're going to say a 7 out of 10. Completely fine. But the basis and the foundation of the criticism is the fact that Snow White isn't actually white, even though she's white presenting. The silly woman next to fucking Piers Morgan called her Snow Latte. And like I don't understand it. If you're going to be fucking conservative, stand on fucking business and say what you want to say. You want to say that Snow White should be a white woman. Just say it.
really think that the advanced ticket sales are in the gutter. They're trash. People are posting screenshots of empty theaters, but this is not a movie. This is a movie where families will decide to see a movie, not buy
I kind of blame
advanced
like the
tickets and walk up.
you would have
so
to look
it
at
could
it per
go
theater.
either way. I think in the end,
A lot of
because of the
streaming
budget,
services
it's a
are playing
financial
these movies
disaster.
like 2 weeks
And
after.
it just shows how creatively bankrupt Disney is as a studio, that they're even considering doing this. These live action remakes have all been awful, and this one has been burdened by, of course, Zegler and her
Hey, who the
being
fuck is this
very
guy?
outspoken politically. Probably a bad choice. They didn't rein her in soon enough. I don't think she understood the responsibility of taking on this role. So where her career is after this, I think Broadway, but she will never be an actress that will be at the head of a tentpole big blockbuster. No one will take a risk on her. And this movie will.
They said
will
the same thing
prove
about
that
Kristen
out.
Stewart, and then
Chris
that
Gore,
one
thank you
horror
very much.
movie.
I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Well, let's get into
That was
this
fucking silly as shit,
this other
honestly.
aspect of it, which was the ludicrous decision to not actually use dwarf actors to play Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And Critical Drinker, my whole position on this from the start has been, in the dwarf actor world, there is not a bigger gig or a more lucrative, better paid gig out there in Hollywood than playing one of the dwarves in a Disney remake of Snow White. And yet, in an effort to supposedly be more inclusive and to signal their virtue for what they saw as a marginalized group of people in society, they completely screwed them over. And they deprived 7 dwarf actors of great jobs.
I can agree with
They
that.
then tried these mystical beast nonsense. Then they abandoned that and they brought in CGI versions of dwarves.
I can agree with
which
that. If you do have the
apparently
opportunity
look
to
and
hire
sound
people who
absurd
are
in the film.
dwarves, then you should
What
be
is
able to do
going
that.
on there?
It's
What's the
really
mindset
difficult for
behind
them to
this?
get work and display
I
their
think
talent.
you're giving them too
Really,
much
really
credit by
difficult.
implying that there is a mindset behind it. This is where ideology ends up tying itself.
But then
in
again,
knots to the
I'm
point-
confused. Would they not call that like DEI? Would that not also be considered DEI? If they can just, hey, I'm just going to create dwarves. If they go out of their way to go find dwarves, actual dwarves, wouldn't that be considered some sort of DEI? Why wouldn't they bitch about that too?
Point where you've got a Snow White who isn't white, you've got a search for true love that doesn't have true love in it because that's problematic, and you've now got the 7 dwarves who aren't dwarves but now are dwarves again, but they're CGI dwarves because we don't want to employ real dwarf actors. It's absurd. It's the complete absurdity of modern Hollywood. They are so desperate not to offend anyone that they end up screwing up everything that they do.
They were fired for their own good.
Disney are facing a big protest and backlash from dwarf actors and actresses over the decision to replace Snow White's 7 dwarves with CGI characters. Returning to Uncensored is Dylan Postle, aka Hornswoggle from WWE. Dylan, great to see you again. What a mess Disney made of this. But just on that point, we discussed this before, but what I really resent is that dwarf actors have been deprived of potentially one of the best gigs of their entire
I do
careers.
agree with that. I do agree with that.
Pierce, you mentioned the 7 actors, but what about the stunt doubles and the stand-ins
Right.
and all of that? Now you're talking 12 to 15 at least people in the acting industry from my community that got left out of jobs. And here's the thing: this isn't, to me.
But I do want to see if they're going to stay consistent, because I would consider this DEI, right? Am I tripping? Am I wrong? Would this not be considered some sort of DEI? Like, well, they didn't do it in my community. My community was never involved in it. We should have been involved in it, right?
Was it Disney's call? Sure. But this all falls back on what Peter Dinklage said on that podcast about what is he on his soapbox about for all of these years. And him literally making that statement and canceling this whole community of their jobs. And what makes him the voice of my and our dwarf acting community and,
Yes.
and little people community? Why is it him that speaks up for all of us? I was on television for 10 plus years. Why is he being taken as the voice of the whole community? That's my issue.
What has been
I would have.
Has he faced a big backlash now? Because I completely agree with you. Who appointed him, the great high priest of deciding what work goes to who?
From me, he sure has. I don't.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the others, but for me, he sure has. Because again, what makes it okay? What producers, directors? I would love these roles. I would love all of these roles. I would love any roles, whether they're written for a dwarf actor or whether they're written for another actor. Any role is okay for anyone. That's the issue. That's the thing of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Me going out for a role doesn't necessarily have to be a dwarf casted role, but these were dream roles. 7 dream roles
Yes.
in a major production.
Yeah.
A major production. Disney never does anything small, as we know. Disney does big things. This
Yeah.
is a dream role for people of my community.
Of course it is. And the other thing, I just thought that the secondary phase, when they brought in these magical creatures, which were all of varying heights, some were very tall, right? I mean, I don't know how that made you feel, but, I just thought it was absurd.
I mean, I just think it was. I think it was trying to fix an immediate voice and fix that issue. Who knows? But again, I go back to, why is it one voice that matters? Why aren't we taking other people in the community? And this doesn't just go for my community. It goes for any community. Why aren't we taking other voices into consideration?
I heard that the dwarf
I would
actors
like
were
the
not
entire
even
panel to
asked
answer
to
that
voice
question.
the CGI characters. They didn't even get voiceover action here, which again,
I have no idea about that, but who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing is ridiculous to me. And here's the thing. Someone said about how it's not original or their creativity is out the window. I don't feel that way. I love these remakes. I'm a Disney fanatic. I'm a Disney adult, as they say. These remakes are these live action remakes. I love them. But the issue is Snow White is what kicked off the Walt Disney film franchise and company. So now, argue with me if you want, who was the star of Snow White? Was it Snow White, or who did the dwarves stand out the most? The dwarves.
She says snow beige. See, now this is the fucking problem I have, right? Now she calls it snow beige. Earlier she called it snow latte. If somebody was to say some disrespectful shit to her or some disrespectful shit about black people in any other concept, me, her, and well, I don't even know if she would anymore. But a lot of people would be up in arms. So why the fuck is it so easy for individuals like her to be like snow beige, snow latte, like? It wasn't too long ago. You know what? I want to know how she felt about The Little Mermaid. That's what I want to know. I want to know how she felt about The Little Mermaid since Snow White was so bad. Correct. Even though Snow White actor was white presenting. It's just fucking
characters
crazy.
with different personalities who now could have been 7 different actors with different personalities and different dream roles. And
you know what's really laughable in a sick way is if you ask Disney at the time why they were doing this, and so we're being progressive. We're listening. We feel it's, they're listening to people like Peter Dinklage and say, yes, of course.
They're listening to one.
Yeah.
They're listening to one. Not
right, that's my point. So they take him.
Multiple.
So they take him as
that's my issue.
Yeah, I agree.
They're listening to one voice.
Right, I agree. But what they're doing, they're making it
to me.
Yeah.
He's not. I never voted him as president of my community.
Right.
I never voted that. He's the one that spoke up because he had that voice on that podcast. I get it. I really, really do. He had a huge platform, and he said that on a platform, and it just got buzzed. I understand that. But then why not, after that, go to other dwarf actors? Or even not even dwarf actors, just people in the dwarf community.
Yes.
And be like, hey, you take this offensively? No. I would bet my house that you ask 10 people, 9 in the dwarf community are going, no, that's great for our
100%. I think Peter Dinklage owes you all a massive public apology, and it's fine for him because he's made his millions.
He won't.
He's made his millions,
and he won't do it. The issue is he won't do it. The check from Elf when he took that role cashed perfectly fine.
Exactly.
Cashed perfectly fine.
Exactly. Fine for him, not fine for everybody else. It's brilliant to talk to you, Dylan.
Yes, sir.
You've been such a great advocate on this. Honestly, every word you say about it just rings so true.
This isn't, and again, this isn't about me personally.
No,
this is
I know.
about the dwarf acting community.
I mean, can I just say?
And even above that.
Here she comes.
Go ahead.
No, I don't mean to trivialize this, but this kind of reminds me of what was done to like ring girls who were basically fired for their own good. So I'm not a huge boxing fan, but I went to see a boxing match in London, not of my own volition. I was on a date, and I was like, "This is great! I get to see some boxing, and I get to see some cheeks as well. This was fun." And there was no cheeks; it was just bloody boxing. And then I asked one of the staff there, "Where are the ring girls?" Like, I came here. This is part of the reason why I came. And they were like, no, they were fired because of equality. And I feel like this is kind of a similar thing. Something has been happened on behalf of the community without actually the community's input.
Nobody asked the ring girls if they
Exactly, and it looks great to me.
I feel this is completely different.
That's hell of a different. What the fuck is your problem?
Completely different.
That's completely different scenario.
I'm in the sports
Can
entertainment
we
world. I can't take your side on that.
In this panel, in this
so
shit.
this is literally
You can't hear
people
me on the screen. That's right.
just going out for these roles that were made for them, and now they're taken away because one voice.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Dylan, great to see you. Thank you very much.
It's nice to see that you're an advocate for DEI. I'm happy.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Thank you.
I'm saying I'm happy to see that you're an advocate
Thank
for
you.
DEI. It's refreshing.
In what sense?
Thank you.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because so much of the show in the past and just these narratives lately have been about cutting jobs and being efficient. And you're advocating for Disney to do more inclusive work.
No, the thing-
Yes, no. He's 100% right. You wanted them to be inclusive. You wanted Disney to be inclusive for dwarves. That's what you wanted to do. That's exactly what he did. Good fucking catch. Good fucking catch. No, it has everything to do with DEI. I love it when white people do. I love when this happens to
If
them.
it's DEI, what is,
don't agree with it or
what
not?
is
I'm
inclusive about excluding
You're always confused,
dwarf
dude.
actors from the roles?
No, I'm saying. I mean, I agree.
This
with
was
you.
so fucking ass
I just think that there
backwards.
should have been
Snow White wasn't white enough, but all of a sudden they have a problem with CGI dwarves. And you're saying, well, they should have included dwarves, actual dwarves. That's where the inclusivity comes from. And you guys went on a fucking diatribe about fucking Peter Dinklage.
And you
Well, why?
were very much like, well, you thought it was important about the accuracy about that. And now you're saying a fictional character like Snow White, I guess, can't be played by a Latino woman because a fairy tale narrative, I guess, Brandy shouldn't play Cinderella because
No, because
Cinderella was white.
Snow
I
White
guess
had
the
skin
classic
white
Disney
as
version.
snow. Hold
I'm
on,
just
no, I'm
saying.
sorry. I don't understand the limits of your advocacy. Snow White was called Snow White because her skin was as white as snow. I don't understand the logic of having a beige lady.
Can we
play
just make her
Snow
say
White
that
when
she
they're
wanted to?
perfectly
Can we just
available
make her
white
say? I
actresses
just
that
want her to
can
say
play
that
that.
she
Just
wanted,
like
she
Ryan
just wanted a
Gosling
white, a
doesn't
pure
play
white woman to play
M'Baku
Snow
or
White.
something
Just
from-
fucking say it.
From Black Panther, like I don't. Where are the limits of your advocacy?
All right,
So
well,
it's
look.
okay for one race but not another.
Yeah, I think the whole point is they are
There's a completely
dwarves
there's a cultural
movie,
difference
and
with Black
dwarf
Panther, but
actors
these
were deprived of playing them. That's not a DEI issue.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
it's
an
common sense.
It's like you can't compare Snow White to
outrage.
Black
I
Panther.
wanna
There's a
end-
cultural
I wanna end
difference.
on
There's
something
actual
which
culture in one.
I
It's
wanna
not
end on
culture in
something
another.
which we may all agree.
There's actual
with, even
traditions
you,
and shit
Ernest,
like that, but
which
these
is,
fucking idiots
are
won't know that.
Hilaria and Alec Baldwin the most annoying people on God's earth? But do we now have a scintilla of sympathy for Alec Baldwin after we saw this clip of them on a red carpet talking about their god-awful reality show? Take a look.
I think we're gonna see. You know, we're gonna see how it feels to have it be out there.
It's gonna be great.
This
You're
season.
a winner.
Oh my God! When I'm talking, you're not talking. No, when I'm talking, you're not talking. This is why. Yes, we'll have to just cut him out of the show. No,
Holy shit!
no. I mean, I think this is a.
I want to
really
say she's joking.
raw
I want to say
show,
she's
and
joking,
It's very real.
but
and
he
we
just-
took a lot of chances, and I think that we'll see where it leads us. We'll see what it feels like to have be out there, and then we'll see.
That's crazy.
If people like.
That's crazy work right there.
Oh my God, I'm talking and not talking. Not talking.
That's
It's that
crazy
fake
work.
Spanish accent as well.
That's crazy work. I
But
saw
let me
this
start with you, Ernest,
cheap
on
little
this
shit I
case.
wanted to
I
look
mean,
at. Yeah.
She's a horror story. Any woman that does that to her husband on a red carpet. Talking, not talking. I mean, it's unbelievable. What was going on?
What did she do?
Yeah, and I think she was actually literally saying that, talking, not talking. Stupid shit. I don't have. I should have went to the ones that were considered. So I was looking at. Oh, that's the fucking silly part about all this.
In a
shit.
time when we are almost fighting Satan, and Satan being Trump. I'd rather the dog catcher be president of the United States over Donald Trump.
I would rather a rock with googly eyes be the president over Donald
Yes.
Trump.
Listen.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. The far left made us lose the election. In the interviews, I did have a lot of people agree.
Ooh, called
Show
out.
yourself.
Okay.
Let's go.
Called out.
So awkward.
It's a kind of a big accusation to say that they made us lose the election. I think there are elements on the far left that contributed to like a sort of an optics that made us look a little bit more extreme than we actually were. So in that way, yeah, of course there was a little bit of contribution there. Was it the sole reason why? Of course not, no.
Yeah, I think it's pretty nuanced. If you looked at it as like a pie graph, 70% is because of the far left agenda. I think there's just too many Americans that are too close to the center, and you know, I don't have issues per se with what is considered the far left agenda, but the big issue is if it's costing us national elections and the House of Representatives and the Senate and the Supreme Court and the White House, we have to make some adjustments.
I really think that optics are important because I don't know how it is for everyone, but personally when I would go on my TikTok or like any social media, I would see a lot of like Kamala HQ videos and a lot of things from like the Democratic Party, and it was giving a lot of like far left ideology, like viewpoints in the way it kind of portrayed itself. And it is good to rally up like support and stuff, but it also, I feel like, isolates those who do care about other issues such as the economy and other things like that. It turns people off because I think at the end of the day we have to acknowledge that like there is a stereotype when it comes to the Democratic Party, and it's unfortunate, but when people see things that align with that stereotype, it ultimately kind of hits us back a bit. Not to say that there's not stereotypes everywhere, but like.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, what we're saying is that it's not that we disagree with a lot of the things that the far left believes in. It's so much more of the way it's communicated in their approach. And I think we see it in extremism in any capacity with regards to any issue. But obviously for us, I think it affects us more because it's like, well, gosh, I do agree with you in so many ways, but the way you're doing it is making us look so bad. And it's turning, like you said, a lot of people that are more in the center away.
And I actually believe that a lot of moderate Republicans actually held their nose and voted for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But they were just so like, we cannot go this far left. You know, we almost, since he's the only real
What do they mean
viable
by this
option
far
on the
left?
right,
Like,
we have to go with
none
it.
of
So many
Kamala
of them that I've
policies
spoken
that she
to, they
ran
see
on
Trump
was,
as
like,
being moderate,
far
like, and
fucking
which is
left.
really
I mean, that's
interesting.
wild.
I mean,
Crazy.
and they defend it, but it's like, again, it's the optics, and whether it's true or not. But if that's what people are perceiving it, if they're like, whoa, the left has gone so far left that Trump seems like the moderate candidate, then there's definitely an issue there, and I think needs to be addressed.
Can you guys be specific about
Like,
the
at
agenda?
what
Right.
fucking
So
point did
I would
that
say
happen? When was
items
that?
that I feel compromise the far left agenda would be like transgender rights, and I say that.
Okay, here we go. So what they're probably gonna say is like transgender rights or the trans topic, the trans issues, which I will say did play a major role, and it played one of the roles in why the Democrats lost the election. Among many of things, it's a smaller bit of role because we have to remember that America's fucking is transphobic, racist. Its foundation is racism and transphobia. It's what it's built on. So we did lose. That did play a factor. But I'm not saying stop fighting for it. As a matter of fact, I think they should keep doing it. The approach should be different, though. The approach needs to be different because that them fucking ad that Donald Trump did that played on the in the AFC Championship game, I think it was. It played during the AFC Championship game on CBS. That did a fucking number. My opinion is that did a fucking number. So I think we just gotta change. They gotta change their way that they approach this shit.
That please don't.
That doesn't mean do not fight. I
don't think that I'm saying there doesn't need to be acknowledgement of any person wherever they're at, whether it's LGBTQ+, transgender, minorities, whatever. I believe we all deserve equal human rights. But if your agenda is to focus on one group of people that kind of compromise, I think something less than 2% of the population, and you're neglecting something huge. I think you were the one that said, like, the economy. You're not going to get many people to go down your train of thought with that.
I feel like the Democratic Party was like, we're going to hit all of these left ideals. We're going to hit about trans rights. We're going to hit about women's rights. We're going to hit about all this. And that's what kind of led things to the back burner. And the problem is when you do hit certain demographics, like you do want to send a message out to all women, you kind of forget the fact that, like, not all women want abortion, right?
Sure, yeah.
And by
The
having that
majority of
emphasis
women
on
did.
like these pinpoint issues, you really do neglect the majority.
Yeah, And I mean, the exit polls showed that the two biggest issues Americans on the whole, all Americans cared most about was the economy and immigration.
Right.
And like the percentage that cared about things like abortion and race relations, like they were on the map, but they were so small in comparison to these bigger issues. I would say that I do hesitate to call it a left-wing agenda because it sounds kind of sinister when you say that, and the right-wing agenda, and it's almost like they're trying to infiltrate and control everything and therefore they're bad and we must destroy them. I don't really like that terminology, but as far as what I think, if we had to call it an agenda, what we see happening on the left is that they're really set on putting everything in terms of race and sex and sexual orientation, and it causes a lot of division, it causes tribalism, and again, I'm not saying that that's their intention, I'm not saying that's their agenda, I'm not saying that they've written it out like this is what we're gonna do. Optically, that's how it looks, that's how people are interpreting it, and it wasn't very unifying for a lot of Americans. It wasn't the most important thing to a lot of Americans when we had things like immigration and the economy that it was affecting everybody and that everybody really cared about.